Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Rory James podcast. I'm James, and I'm here with the famous Rory. Rory, hello.
Hello, James.
Right then, we've got a good episode today. We've got an interview that Rory you did.
Yep.
With two people, Sid and Chris. And before we get to the interview itself, I wonder if you could basically, first of all, introduce who Sid and Chris are and how you know them.
Well, I knew them from when I was at school in the 90s, and we did a production together. And they were from the Orpheus Centre, or the Orpheus Project, that went on to be the Orpheus Centre. And later they became my tutors. And our interview today is not only about their time with us at Orpheus, but also their theatrical careers and what they're doing now.
Before we go to the interview, what sort of inspired you to do the interview in the first place?
Well, I've always remembered them and their fun and their joy and their professionalism when working with them. So, and they were very crucial and very important to me personally in my Orpheus story. And so I thought it would make an exciting interview, and I think it will. And so now we'll have a listen, you, I, and James, and you can draw your own conclusions, and we'll be back with you afterwards. Okay, we're on. Thank you so much for joining me, Sid and Chris.
Absolutely.
And I should point out I have given you the questions beforehand, but the answer is, could I read them? Well, the question is, can I read them? I'll try them.
Go for it.
How did you first get involved in theatre, and what's your favourite aspect of it?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I at age 3.5 marched into my mother's dancing class and joined in without invitation.
Right.
And from then on continued working as a dancer.
Yeah.
And from then on, I started going along to all the rehearsals that my mother was in, and she was an actress.
Mickey Monzel, wasn't it?
Hmm?
Mickey Monzel.
That's right,
yes.
Yeah. And so I was very involved in watching backstage, on stage, doing sets, everything.
Yeah.
And I went off to university, came back out and decided that I didn't want to do my degree in Spanish and French. I wanted to do drama. So from then on, I worked in the theatre.
Yeah.
And started working in children's theatre.
Yeah.
Cut my teeth and then carried on into musical theatre mainly. That's my story.
Yeah. Was that the Act One, Scene One type thing, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Well, that's when I had the two kids.
Yeah.
I was getting fairly frantic at home because I couldn't go and work anymore. And I set up a company. And I overheard Chris on the phone saying to the local journalist, she's writing a musical, you know. And I thought, great. Who said that? So I then had to write the damn thing. And we set up this company in the village, and we started off, and we had a waiting list of over 50.
Good God.
It kept all the kids amused and enjoying themselves.
Sure.
In fact, we could have taken a lot more than 50, but as the largest coach we could get was a 53-seater, you had to allow room for 3 adults.
Right.
So that's how it was limited to 50.
Gosh.
So,
And how did you start?
Well, I first encountered the piano
at
the age of 6, and it was in a neighbour's house, and they never played it. And I was absolutely fascinated by it. So we were gifted this piano, and it was awful. It really was well out of tune, and it was very clunky. So I then started piano lessons at the age of 6. And when it came to going to secondary school, I was really lucky in that I was accepted for a comprehensive school, but it was out of our area. And it had a really superb music department and a world-renowned choir. And I was just really lucky to go there. So that was my start. I then went to the Royal College of Music and then went into the business, not knowing really what I wanted to do or how I was going to do it, you know.
Yeah, and you met, if I remember rightly, on the production where you met, you were doing hair, Sid. And Chris, you were
Chris
doing...
was my boss.
He
was my boss. He was my musical director.
Oh, right, okay.
But that's how we met.
Yeah. 1981, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm just going into my memory here.
You've got a better memory than I do.
I know when your birthday is, for example, but I won't say it here.
Well, okay.
Okay. How do you feel your work has assisted you emotionally yourselves?
First,
Well, I think that anybody who goes into performing arts, whether it's music, drama, dance, they do it because they want to do it. It's something which comes from inside, and it's just one of those things. You've got to try it, and some people are really successful very quickly. Some take a lifetime trying to be successful and never succeeding, which is kind of like where I fit in. And then others sort of just try it and then move on to something else. But if it's in your system, you've got to try and work it through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the emotional thing for me. How about you, Sid?
I think the emotional thing for me was I just loved having challenges, and that each show had to be better than the last.
Yeah.
Which meant an intellectual challenge. How do I make this work? As well as the artistic challenge.
Mm.
So that's probably why I went over to directing from acting.
Mm-hmm.
Because it meant that the brain was involved and you weren't being told what to do. You were having to make it all come out of your head.
Yeah.
And then rationalise it with budgets and all the rest of it. So emotionally, that caused me a lot of stress, especially you lot.
Oh no. Well, it resulted in lots of entertainment, I can assure you, and it's a very special time it was too. Yeah. If you want to ask me any questions as we go on, please do. Honestly.
Who are you?
Who am I?
Oh yes.
I'm still me. I'm older than I wish to be, but I'm still me. Put it that way.
Oh, we're all that. We're all that. Much older than we wish to be.
Yes, quite. And this is going to be very difficult, which is why I sort of preempted the question. Out of all of the stuff, either that we've done or that you've done otherwise with Orpheus, which is your favourite, or is that unanswerable? There are so many of those, presumably.
I think I adored doing all the courses.
Yeah.
I enjoyed building my own understanding of what you guys could do from zero up to wow. You know, like all the dance work and stuff that we could do with the chairs and all sorts of stuff, which I had no idea about. And then, of course, moving on to doing Orpheus the Mythical, which is absolute bliss.
Yes.
Because it meant it was going on to a proper stage with a proper script, with music and a band and proper rehearsals. It was like being in professional theatre, really.
I think it was fairly intense, but it was extra professional because it was intense, wasn't it? Really?
Yes, absolutely. And we had a brilliant cast. It was nice to meet up with guys who'd left the Orpheus.
Yes, absolutely.
And then came back in to do some of the parts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lovely for me because I got to design costumes and things like that, which is great. I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, sure.
And again, working with Dickie Stilgo, that was fabulous as well.
Yeah, I still miss it today. I'm sure if somebody said, right, you're doing X with Richard Stilgo in the next 5 seconds, click their fingers and we'd be there. We'd know exactly what we're doing and exactly where we were because it was so familiar.
Absolutely.
Right. Chris, what was your favourite?
Well, I must say that I enjoyed it right the way back from the early days when in the summer you do a week's course for Share Music, and it was always really good. And of course, Share Music was started by Richard and also by Dr. Michael Swallow.
I remember him, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were in England, we never met him once, but we moved to Northern Ireland, almost 13 years ago, and I went to a concert, and I bumped into him, and so it was really good being able to meet him at that time. But as I said, starting from the early days, really enjoyed those courses because people came from all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a guy from Italy, and then 2 or 3 people from Ireland, from the Republic, I think. And so all of these things were incredibly memorable. And we were involved in the ones mostly in Surrey at Crab Hill. Is it Crab Hill House?
Yeah, and then we moved to Northeast.
And then also in Keswick in the Lake District. So that was terrific. Now, regarding the favourite, I have to say that I think my favourite, or favourites, I wasn't actually involved in. Well, I was, but as a member of the audience. Now, one Sid has already mentioned, which was Orpheus the Mythical, which, I saw it about 2 or 3 times, once at the Orpheus Centre when it was originally done, and then in Guildford. But I think the most memorable one it was one of the courses run in the early days of the Orpheus Centre, where a group of people came over from Palestine.
Oh, God, yes.
And that was absolutely terrific because totally different cultures, obviously. And so it gave everybody the chance to meet new people, totally different continents, as we were to them. And of course, they had a remarkable, take on how to use wheelchairs, particularly in dance. And I remember sort of going in the corridors of the Orpheus Centre once that had been opened, and you could see the influence which that had been, because you would have to hide for cover as people whizzed past you at probably a faster rate of knots than ever they would have done before. You know?
I can remember rescuing Nick, our son, sitting on one of your chairs.
Yes, I remember.
Oh my God! I thought he was going to die.
Well, he wanted to do that. By the way, he wanted to whiz down the corridor.
Okay, you're forgiven. It was you, was it?
It wasn't me. He wanted to do it. I swear to that. And I remember. I remember the songs and what we did. It's still very clear to me these days. I can tell you. Right. What's the other one? What are you up to now, as opposed to then? What are you up to now?
Well, what we're up to now is we're talking to you, Rory.
Well, I know.
I think we're having a jolly good time. From my point of view, I'm trying to take it easy now. So I'm going back over sort of old things which I'd written years before and putting them into the computer and rewriting. Doing a lot of revision work. Generally slowing down, though. How about you, Sid?
Well, I'm at the mercy of the Irish Film Lot now, because I've been doing a lot of acting since I got over here. I've stopped directing. I've done a couple of shows, but mainly I've been acting. And because whenever they need an old bag, they wheel me in now. You see.
Do you have a preference for acting or directing now, Sid?
I wouldn't particularly want to go back to directing now because it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have the same amount of energy now as I used to have 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And I used to find at the end of every production I did, I would go zonk.
Yeah.
Because you're having to really work hard to get your ideas across, to keep everyone laughing, etc., etc.
I remember we used to sit. I remember just sitting with you one night, and you were saying, I can't be whizzy and fun all the time. I remember saying, Sid, I understand. You've been working very hard and so on. So it's very difficult to be on adrenaline the entire time, almost, really.
Yes, it is exhausting. Whereas as an actor, you don't have all the administration to do. You don't have to work out the timetables of rehearsals. You don't have to do anything like that. You have to turn up, do what you're told, and go home. Yeah,
because you're under somebody else's direction as opposed to your own.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yeah, sure.
And it's been lovely for me because I'm meeting up with all the camera crews and all the sound people who I've done various gigs with. Yeah. And then suddenly we went into COVID and they were all wearing masks.
Sure,
and I'd hear this little voice behind a mask, "Hi, Sid." And I'd turn around, "Who are you?" "I did that last one you did when when you were the funny old lady with it." "Oh, God, hello, how are you?" Because you couldn't recognise people because they've got these masks on.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've done a few television things and a few films. Sure. I did Game of Thrones, which was good.
Yeah.
And most recently I did a Dalgleish, one of the episodes from Dalgleish.
Game of Thrones, fantastic. And is there anything personally or professionally that you'd like to do now that you're not doing?
Nah.
Rest.
I
No,
don't.
I'm just happy to go tootling along. I kind of feel, and I feel like I've had a fantastic career, a fantastic life with so many. I've been so lucky in so many ways with the work that's come my way, and the kind of the variation in that work that I, in a way, feel really thrilled with everything I've done, and
Good.
I don't think I could top it now.
Well, I've still got work to do because I'm still around, but I can fully understand where you are in life, and I'm very pleased that you're happy and so contented.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, very happy.
Yeah. Well, James, I mean, I know how I felt doing the interview. How did you feel listening along there?
Yeah, well, I have to say, I thought it was a great interview. I think you're a very natural interviewer. What's his name? Parkinson. Reminded me a bit of a Parkinson, very relaxed sort of conversational style. So I thought the interview itself was really well done, and yeah, really fascinating. I love hearing about other people's lives, and it sounds like they both had amazing lives themselves. And I love the fact that they met through the musical theatre and stuff. So I thought it was a really, really happy and nice interview, basically.
Oh, good to hear it. Good to hear it from an outsider listening in there, and we must get your views on that too. And it's funny you should say Parkinson because that's my favourite interviewer. Funnily enough, the late Michael Parkinson. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Our next one is going to be music related, called At the Bus Stop. See you next time.